Okay, so we are 3 of our 4 members of the Justice and Equity Committee committee today, meeting on May 3rd, starting at 4:20 today. And so in terms of a roll call, I can see that Sharon Abreu is here, and Kevin Ranker is here, and Kyle Davies will be joining us shortly. All right, so Kevin, just so you're aware, on the agenda for today, what we've outlined is the usual, approval of minutes. Then agenda item 3 will be an overview of findings from meetings or discussions that have been held by any of us in the last week with stakeholders or officials in the county or outside of the county on issues of justice and equity. So that'll be agenda item 3. Item number 4 will be to review proposed amendments, version 1 that came out of our working session yesterday, and to discuss the findings in relation to those proposed amendments. And agenda item number 5 will just to be confirm any further guest speakers we might have. I have 2 suggestions in that regard that I'd like to run past you all. Number 6 is any new business, and then we have public comment, but we don't have Linnea here today or anybody else, so we'll see how that goes. And of course, we're going to want to, in the course of talking about agenda item 4, which is looking over our proposed amendments, beginning to discuss findings, and that we want to talk about how we will continue to fine-tune our findings, given that we have to present on a week from Wednesday. And Kevin, I did start up a table with our proposed amendments and findings that I can screen share when we get to that point in the meeting. Okay, so does that sound all fine to you guys?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay, excellent. So the minutes from last week, Monday, April 26th, Sharon, I had a chance to read through them, and yeah, thank you so much, because as usual, they were super, super comprehensive in terms of just highlighting key issues and points that came up in the course of the meeting. And I realized I broke one of the cardinal rules of a consultant that Kevin will appreciate, which is over committing and under delivering. I'm really bad with that. So I need to follow Kevin's rules of being a good consultant and under commit and over deliver. Right, Kevin? Yeah, I can't hear me. Hopefully you can hear me.
I don't know if I want to come off mute for that.
That's what I do with my Spanish lessons.
Okay.
I set the bar low for how much I do per day, so then I usually exceed it. It feels better that way.
There you go. Yeah, so Sharon, I did not have any particular amendments to offer, and I've noted that
I just want to know, I'm getting a lot of noise in my headphones. It could probably from moving a laptop or something.
Or paper?
Yeah.
Is it moving?
I don't know.
It was all Jane moving paper.
I don't know. These are like $30 skull candy earbuds, but they're like really sensitive.
Okay.
I would move that we accept the minutes.
Okay, excellent. And Kevin, if you I'm going to use them as a reference point in the course of the next week, because there's still stuff that's kind of live in those minutes, so they're very useful. Okay, do I have a second to approving the minutes?
Sharon? I guess that would be me.
Okay, fair enough. And Kyle seems satisfied with them too. So no need to vote. The minutes have been passed by consensus. So we shall carry on. So Kevin, yeah?
No, I'm all good.
Okay, good. So next agenda item is this kind of overview of findings from meetings or discussions we've held with stakeholders in the past week. So first I wanted to ask Sharon, you and Kevin, if you did speak to anybody at all in the course of the past week. Sharon, I don't know that you had anyone on your list, but I can't recall.
I didn't.
Okay. And
everybody was taken away from me, and that is just fine, because I've had a lot to do with climate and environment. So
yeah, okay. So Kevin, did you have any conversations, or check-ins with anybody, any stakeholders, to talk about justice and equity for our committee or not?
I had some interesting phone calls, interesting conversations, not on the phone, in person, in the grocery store, actually, and then one on the street.
Good.
They were actually good. It was one was a member of our Latinx community, and another person was just somebody who was really interested in our work. So I think the word is starting to get out there that we're talking. I will say both of them were disappointed that we were talking about an advisory committee as opposed to an oversight commission.
Okay. All right. All right. That's good to know. And what did they have did they have a suggestion, along the lines of oversight?
Yeah, they said to tell the chairwoman that she's a wimp, she's a big old wimp, she's the biggest wimp in the whole wide world.
Okay. He's rolling over us, Sharon. You know that. You know the tactic, eh? The Kevin tactic, doing a rollover. Okay,
Oh,
listen,
gee.
I think we're still needing to have that conversation. So let's not feel like we've definitively decided. I don't know. We need Kyle coming in as well. But
In all seriousness, there was concern that whatever we do have teeth, and make sure that the vision we're putting forward is strong and supported, and not just something that sounds good on paper.
absolutely. Okay. Good. Nice to hear constituent feedback. Very happy to hear that. That's great.
Yeah, I have to say, advocacy feels like begging, pleading.
Well, advisory feels weaker than that, in some ways.
Oh,
Yeah, because it's advisory. I think, Kevin, we can wait to talk this a little bit more, revisit this with Kyle when he joins. But Sharon and I were speaking briefly before we started the meeting and started recording that there appears that there's going to be a declaration of rights that the process committee will put before the full commission that will be embedded in the charter, and it will speak to rights that are both human in nature but also nature related. Human rights but also rights of nature kind of language. And I think a proposed amendment of that nature, combined with some of the other amendments we're suggesting, will make stronger the mandate of this commission. I'm not yet of the view that we should drop the word oversight completely, because I don't know that it need necessarily be problematic, but I feel like we may not be finished a discussion on that fully yet. Any other thoughts? No?
I would say that a Bill of Rights is great. Just like the United States Bill of Rights, how it is implemented matters more. The Bill of Rights grants rights to citizens of the United States and residents of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
How it was enforced, however, are things like the Voting Rights Act, the Americans with Disabilities Act,
Yes.
and so it's the laws again.
Yes.
So I am nervous that we're spending a lot of time as a commission, and we're going to spend a lot of time putting forward a Bill of Rights that will say a lot of stuff. And sure, now that's the law of the land, but how that is implemented is an entirely different subject. And that's where a commission comes in. That's where individual ordinances come in. And so just like our comprehensive plan has a preamble that sounds beautiful, where's the teeth?
Yeah, right. Okay, so, and by the way, they're talking about calling it a declaration of rights, not a bill of rights.
Oh, God, that's even worse.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to sing my big wimpy song to the whole commission Wednesday.
can I sing it with you?
Maybe.
Okay, fair enough. I hear you. And I agree with you. If you guys are okay with waiting till Kyle jumps on the call, that would be my preference, if you're all right with that.
Yeah, of course. And I apologize, but I'm going to be pulling into Orcas in just a few minutes. So hopefully he gets on and I don't just leave, but that may in fact be the case.
Okay, but you can jump on when you get home, right?
Yeah, but that'll be another 20, 25 minutes.
I see,
Okay,
okay.
I just want to say that, if I have this recording project, I am really feeling semi-desperate to get done today. So if we're going to run overtime, I'd rather go do some of that now and come back when we're actually reconvening for the full meeting. 'Cause I have another thing at 6:30 and I'm like,
Uh-oh.
And I'm sorry, Sharon, but after 5, I have another thing too. So
Oh, okay. Oh,
oh, okay. So you can't stay beyond 5 anyway.
well, I was gonna try and push it to maybe max 5:30, but
I could do that because I was planning to do that anyway.
yeah.
okay. Let's just continue. Kevin, if you have to jump off, we'll use your time when you jump back on, and we'll continue and do the best we can. I think we need to also, just because publicly it's a meeting from 4 to 5:30, so I think, yeah, it's probably best that we proceed. Okay, if that's all right with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a day where I keep showing up for things and other people aren't showing up, and I'm like, "Arr."
Yeah, and I'm
This is
really
another
sorry,
thing today.
Sharon. I just got screwed by our fairies.
Yeah, I totally understand that. That's happened to me. It's happened to all of us.
For sure, for sure. Okay, so listen, I just want to. Was there anyone else you spoke to, Kevin, or not?
No.
Okay, all right. So if you would indulge me to share a little bit of feedback from a couple of the individuals I spoke with, I can give you a bit of an overview of some things I learned, if that's okay. And welcome to Linnea.
Wow.
And Linnea, if you don't mind muting, that would be great.
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry.
Welcome to the
I thought you
meeting.
were talking about me.
I'm so sorry.
Don't worry, it's okay. It's okay. All right, excellent. So I spoke with Kathy Obenhaus, who is the chief examiner for the Civil Service Board, that oversees the staffing, or staff of the sheriff's office. Okay, and had an interesting discussion with her. She's been in that job for 17, 18 years, and she was appointed to the job through a competitive process. And she's almost a one-person show. The 3 people that are on that body with her are not very active at all. They're sort of not, almost like rubber stamps in a way, but she really does the lion's share of the work. And it's very prescriptive, or prescribed, if you will, by the RCW that governs the creation of a civil service board. So what it says in the RCW is essentially what she does in terms of putting together a list of candidates for who are applying for positions, and they get ranked based on merit and their performance in their written testing and their oral presentation to that board, and any physical testing that there might be. She said there has been there maybe 1 or 2 female deputies in the time that she's been there. None of the members of the Civil Service Board have ever been women, other than herself. And she doesn't think that would matter anyway, because they kind of just follow what the RCW says they're meant to do. It's been very difficult to get female applicants for positions in the sheriff's office, she said. They just generally do not apply. She then shared with me what for her has been a bit of a bugbear for some time, it seems, which is the fact that the sheriff's office really doesn't do active recruiting. And she's not aware of whether the manner in which they recruit is publicly stated as, the office being an equal opportunity employer or anything of that language. She's not that in the weeds on it, but she said she has tried to encourage them to be more proactive in the recruiting that they do than they are. My understanding from her is that they're very short-staffed and don't have much time to be proactively trying to recruit peoples into the force. And so she used the example of the fire department and how proactively they do recruiting and how well they do it and how attractive they make it seem to work in that part of the government. And so she feels there's something missing there in terms of the intention of the office to be proactively recruiting its workforce. Okay, so that was an interesting observation. Let's see, what else? By the way, a female deputy has just been hired. I think I might have shared that with you guys in an email, and she will be based on Orcas Island. I also believe I shared with you that there has never, in her entire time working on that board, there has never been a complaint about a deputy that has come to their board. The public can make complaints
Really?
either to the sheriff's office or to the prosecuting attorney's office. If a citizen rather has a complaint about the sheriff's office, those are the two points of contact a member of the public can make if they've got a complaint about the sheriff's office, the sheriff or
Prosecutor.
no, it would be the deputies. So no complaints have ever crossed that board to be looked at.
Wow.
None. And so her perspective is that everything is going fine. The office is being run well. There's no problems. She couldn't speak for whether there's been complaints that have gone to the PA's office. She didn't speak to that. She wouldn't necessarily know. Or I guess she would, but she didn't mention that any had. She also talked about the fact that it's completely up to the sheriff what kind of training the force undertakes. So it's the sheriff's discretion as to whether or not those who work under him get training for anything in particular beyond their basic training that they get when they join the force. And so that, she didn't speak to that more than that. Let's see.
Jane,
Yep.
Jane?
Yep.
Is that something where there's discretion? Is that something where the charter, for instance, could make a recommendation that sheriffs receive training and diversity or something? And I apologize, but I'm going to lose you guys in just a sec.
Kevin, I don't know the answer to that question, actually. I guess what, yeah, I mean.
Well, the other thing I would say is I have a new staff person that hopefully will be coming on board as of Wednesday or Thursday, and that's their job, is to help us answer those questions. So.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna flag that one. Okay. Okay, so, all right. What else? The gentleman, Steve DiGiulio, who's that lawyer I told you guys about, who sort of supports all of the civil service boards across the state. I would like to talk to him to get a sort of a higher level view of these civil service boards. And I've reached out to Randy to ask him to put me in touch with them, with that lawyer. And I haven't heard back from Randy yet. I just sent that email today and I copied you all on it. Just because I thought he could give us some better perspective on how these boards generally function, what they're, how much into the business of the sheriff's office staff do they generally get, or what have you. But basically, she has an excellent relationship with the sheriff, always has, with all of them, and things seem, from her perspective, to run smoothly with that office. So that's what she kind of had to say. Okay. Well, one last thing she had to say, which I found very interesting. She said the first three individuals who sat on this body, these citizens, they attended a training in Yakima that's held annually. It's a civil service conference, civil service board conference or something, and it reviews civil service laws. And they have speakers. It's held in Yakima annually. And the first three that that sat on this civil service board, first three reps, went to that training with her. And it was very, very useful and very informative. No reps on this, no citizen reps on this board ever since have gone. So these reps who sit on this board, they're not engaged, they're not active at all. Absolutely not active at all. And they don't avail themselves of training that they could, and they're not required to do so. The county doesn't require them to go to that training annually. So that was interesting. And she thinks it's unfortunate because it's a learning opportunity, right? For these appointed people. so that was, that's that was my takeaway from her. So it could be that there's a couple of things that we might be able to see what the how the charter could potentially influence any of that, but maybe we need to find out from the staff person who's coming on board to the CRC to get a little more help with that. To the email that Linnea shared with Kevin a while back regarding onboarding of new people, it makes you wonder, Sharon, if the onboarding of staff into the sheriff's office could also include some, some valuable training on issues of, of equity, diversity, inclusion, justice, systemic or unconscious bias, systemic racism, things like that. And so, yeah, I mean, it's something to think about, and maybe Linnea can jump on at public comment and give her thoughts on that. Okay, so I also spoke with Barbara Schulstes at the Lopez Island Community Resource Center, and Sharon, it was very useful. And she works very closely and collaboratively with the other two resource centers on Orcas and San Juan. So she knows those executive directors very well, and they've worked very, very closely for some time now. And so issues of, and she said that she'd be prepared to talk to us if we wanted to invite her or the others as well, but I don't know where that stands in terms of our timing at this point. But it certainly sounds like there is a real lack of awareness in this county on issues of diversity and equity and inclusion, and there's a real lack of understanding of the marginalization that people, that BIPOC people, that LGBTQ people, that minority and marginalized persons in this county experience. And racism in her experience working in this county is alive and well. And so it was pretty.
You mean in the county or in the county government? Just in the county in general?
Yeah,
residents?
in the county in general. Yeah.
Okay.
She didn't speak to the county specifically in terms of how it conducts itself necessarily, but she wasn't criticizing. She wasn't in the game of criticizing the county at all. But based on the outreach work, the community work that they do, they are aware that people who have more marginalized voices or people who experience discrimination, it's hard to get them to talk about their issues because they don't feel represented in this community. And she knows of people who have left because they don't feel welcome here. So their organization has done something called Voices and Vision. They've created a group called Voices and Vision, and it's about striking authentic conversations with people who occupy those places of discrimination, marginalization, impoverishment, lack of respect, and are not sort of mainstream white people, so their organization has started to engage in some dialogues around what needs to change, what needs to be discussed and thought about and considered, and how to treat with respect, all people in the county, and have the peoples that are feeling marginalized be able to feel better represented, better heard, better served, that kind of thing. So they're actively doing that kind of work. She shared with me a report that she said would be very useful to get some data on the situation of peoples who are marginalized in our county. And there's a report called, it's the United Way of the Pacific Northwest report. And it's got like data on poverty and data on survival budgets that people are forced to live by. And so she gave me a link to that report, which she said has very valuable data. I actually am able to get access for our group data on all three of our schools, all three of our district schools the percentages of kids in those schools who are experiencing impoverishment, who are experiencing the need for free lunches, who are and based on some profile in terms of their ethnicity and race. So I can get that data for our committee. And so anyway, so that's where I ended my conversation with Barbara, basically. And she would, if we wanted to speak with her as a group, and if we wanted to hear from her other two colleagues on the other islands, she could help make that happen. One other thing, Sharon, she said, was that another stakeholder group it could be important to talk to would be the two big foundations on Orcas and San Juan Island. So on it's Orcas Island Community Foundation, I believe, and the San Juan Island Community Foundation. And she said both of those foundations are very actively involved in these kinds of issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, et cetera. And she said, so yeah, go ahead.
Just wondering if it could be the Orcas Island Community Foundation. I'm wondering what about the Orcas Island Community Resource Center?
Yeah, that's the one that she has.
That's
Erin
the one she's
O'Dell.
talking about?
Yeah, Erin O'Dell.
Erin O'Dell, yeah, Orcas Community Resource Center, yeah.
Exactly right. So in addition to that organization and the one on San Juan, she said two additional organizations that could be interesting to talk to would be those two foundations.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I guess it's OICF and SJICF or something, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, and Hillary Canty, do you know Hillary Canty?
Yeah, she's the director of the Orcas Island Community Foundation.
Right. Okay, so that's kind of what I got out of her. And then, yeah, the other conversation I had, which was absolutely amazing, yesterday, Sharon, that I told you guys about, was with Sam Barr. And oh my gosh, it was a mind-blowing conversation in terms of getting a window's look into just sort of the perspective of a person of Indigenous descent, and he can trace his generations back seven generations. He goes back. His great I don't know, grandfather was of the Barrack family that settled in Doe Bay on Orcas. And his connection with the Samish tribe is matrilineal. It's through his mother's side. And we had a very, very meaningful conversation about how important it would be for our county charter to acknowledge Indigenous persons and their presence, original founding presence in this area, and for them to be acknowledged in the charter. He said it's about time. He said it's time for this to happen. There's no question. And he's younger. He's in his 30s. He grew up on Lopez, born in Anacortes, and he gave me an overview of the key tribes that sort of have claim to having lived in the San Juan Island area. Okay, and there's 7 key tribes. He explained to me, and this was very helpful, if you wanted to have a representative of the Coast Salish peoples sit on, say, for example, the Law and Justice Council, he said it's not going to work that way. He said because the tribes are very distinct, and you have to identify with a tribe, even if your parents come from separate tribes. The government does not allow you to be to be of 2 tribes. And he talked about how the Samish weren't recognized because of a clerical error when the treaty was signed many years ago, and as a result, they were not able to get into. They weren't able to participate in the fishing quota that was settled in the 70s, and so they don't have, as a tribe, they have no fishing quota rights, and the other tribes don't want them to because it would mean they have less access to fish. And he talked about some fundamental. They only received treaty recognition a few years ago, the Samish peoples. And so anyway, we talked for about 2 hours. I can't recap everything we talked about, but basically what he said was the Bureau of Land Management, when they, not the Bureau of Land Management, the Monuments Project, Sharon, do you remember the Monuments Project? Where they, it was this big initiative to create monument lands in the county to have those lands sort of preserved and not be able to be occupied in any way, but allow them to remain in their natural state. And the group that initiated this effort, this monuments initiative, they wanted to have a representative from the Coast Salish peoples on their group. And the problem is that you can't invite just one tribe and not invite others. And one tribe cannot represent all the others. It just doesn't work that way because they're independent. And so that's something we need to be thoughtful about when we talk about any recognition of Indigenous persons' presence, participation, engagement with the county government. And so, to make a long story short, I'll just tell you that he's prepared to speak with us next Monday if we wanted him to. He's made a note on his calendar of the time and day of our meeting, and if we wanted to speak with him, he would be prepared to come, and we could pose some questions to him. So I don't know what your thoughts on that are, Sharon, but yeah, anything come to mind?
I don't know, because I've been hearing we're out of time for having
I know.
guest presenters. But you spoke with him for 2 hours, so I think you're in a good position to say, you know what, I think we should have him come and speak to us and ask this, and this question.
Yeah.
Unless you just want to have a follow-up conversation with him. And
Well, yeah. Thank you. I mean, sorry, I interrupted you.
that's okay. No, it's fine.
I'll be honest with you. He has such an authentic voice and a unique voice. He's not an elder, he's not a council leader. He does cultural heritage preservation with the Swinomish tribe. That's his work.
So he's with Swinomish. He's not with Samish.
He's Samish, but he works for Swinomish.
Oh, works for Swinomish. Okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I just think that it would be of such value for you guys to hear him talk. And I think that would be very appropriate. And I think what would be good though is to prepare a couple of questions for him based on what I learned, but also based on what we're considering in terms of proposed amendments to the charter. However, and I would say what he made me realize, Sharon, is that if we're trying to do things to amend the charter to recognize Indigenous peoples, Coast Salish tribes, I do not feel we will have time to do that in a thoughtful and respectful way to get it on the ballot by November. It's because he said, what you guys really need to do is you need to touch base with each of the tribes, and you need to reach out to each of them and talk to them about your ideas, and not just decide to talk to one person from the Lummi Nation and one person from the Swinomish Nation or what have you. And he said, because you are not respecting the voices of the different tribes fully and completely. So there was a message there. And I think it's, so if we only talk to, Sam from the Samish tribe and, Jay Julius from, I don't know, Swinomish or whatever.
Lummi. He's from Lummi.
Yeah,
Lummi,
and somebody from the Swinomish. I mean, so what about the others, right? And so I just don't think that's smart at all. And it strikes me as being very disrespectful. And so this is, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, and I mean, maybe, we can't do all of that inclusive work this year, but we can still put something. We can still do something that says we are going to proactively recognize Indigenous Coast Salish tribal presence in these islands.
Right. So that's a very good point. And start a process, initiate something, right? And so maybe maybe what it would be good to is to talk to Sam about that next week in terms of an approach, right? And
Yeah.
get his thoughts on it. I mean, I can,
What
yeah.
what language can we put in that is, I guess the word would be, I don't know if the word is prescriptive or intentional, but what can we do without the process of really, because it could be, I think, really difficult to get different viewpoints from different factions within the different tribes and come out with something that's going to make everybody happy. It might be very, very difficult.
It
I'm
would
not
be,
saying we shouldn't try to do it,
yeah, no, I
but what
agree.
can we do in the meantime?
Yeah,
At
so,
least says we are going to do this. We are going to recognize the cultural heritage and contribution of the tribes in these islands.
right. And this is work that could very well take 5 to 10 years, right? I mean, it's about building, it's about beginning to talk in a different way, perhaps with Coast Salish peoples. And so it would, the charter would just be perhaps initiating something, right, along those lines. And what might that look like in terms of a starting point, that has some view to, how that could be pursued, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. In the meantime, Sharon, I can put that to Sam to think about before we meet on Monday. Okay.
Yeah. Great.
And get some thoughts from on that. Okay. Okay. And I mean, honestly, I took notes the whole conversation, and my problem is I don't have a lot of time to type up all my notes right now. Like, I know I've committed to doing it a few times, and I'm realizing I just don't have time to type them up. So,
you know what you could do if you wanted to? If you feel like you can take the time, you could dictate it to me and I'll type them.
Oh, really?
And that'll go faster, I think. I mean, I don't know how fast you type, but it's still faster if somebody's just reading and another person's typing.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good point. Let me get back to you on that.
Okay.
And because I haven't even read my notes again since I wrote them yesterday. So, okay. All right. So that's kind of my update on the discussions I've had. And I think, in terms of our findings, Sharon, this is what's important for us to reflect in our findings. Okay, here's Kevin again. Okay. And he's joining. Doesn't wanna.
You're still in Arizona?
California.
Oh, California.
Yeah, in the desert. It's really weird. It's really weird.
Oh, I thought you were in Arizona.
No, California, yeah. Yeah. Hey, Kevin, are you there? Hello.
He's trying to be here. I could tell that.
He is. Oh, there he is. Hello.
He's home.
So, you might have some thoughts on this, Kevin. You ready?
Where's Kyle?
What's that?
Where's Kyle?
I don't know.
Hasn't come on yet.
Let me just text him. Okay, so Kevin, unfortunately, you missed my briefing on the 2 meetings I had. Well, phone conversations with Barbara Schulstis of LAFRC, Lopez Island Resource Foundation, Community Resource Foundation, and also the conversation I had with Sam Barr of the Samish Nation yesterday, which was really, really informative. But just one thing where Sharon and I landed following my conversation with Sam was, what could we include in a possible amendment to the charter that sort of indicates that there is work that the county wants to do going forward to acknowledge Coast Salish peoples. That's better. Thank you. I think he's really fed up with our work, honestly. What could we include in the charter that says something about wanting to acknowledge, Coast Salish peoples and I don't know all the right words for us, cultivate relationship, to honor, their cultural heritage. And I don't know, I'm blah blahing here, but what Sam said was, it's really important, if you want to do this kind of work, that you reach out to all of the tribes, and not just a few, to get their perspective on how they might want the county charter to reflect, to be reflective of their heritage here. And he said it can get problematic if you just talk to, say, he was referring to himself and maybe someone from Lummi, the Lummi Nation, maybe somebody from the Swinomish Nation or what have you, and not consult everybody. And we got onto this, Kevin, because I told him about our interest in having a Coast Salish representative, Coast Salish person, represented on the Law and Justice Council. And he said to me, what's problematic about that is that Coast Salish individual cannot represent all the tribes. It just won't happen. And he said, he used the example of the monument and the group that launched the monument initiative in our county, and how they had wanted to do something similar. And they had wanted to include someone on their body that would be representative of Coast Salish peoples. And he said, they were never able to do it until they realized the best thing to do was to invite all the tribes to have a representative. And that's when it worked. And so almost all the tribes did have a representative on that monument initiative. And that was the only way they could make it work. Because it just wasn't gonna be possible for someone to say, I can represent all of these tribes. So the point being, it's hard to do something really substantive in the charter at this juncture when we haven't initiated, or not even that far in our thinking process necessarily, and we haven't initiated discussions with all of the tribal councils in any way. And so what Sharon and I were just both musing was, is there something that we can include in the charter that demonstrates an intent to work more deliberatively on these issues in the future with intentionality and authentic, interest, et cetera. But what are your thoughts on that? Like a placeholder in the charter that says the county will embark on work in this area or something like that. What do you think?
Oof, okay. We're not going to create a commission with 13 members for one for each of the tribes that has a UNA in San Juan County. I think it's 13. I can't remember.
Well, he talked about 7. He talked about 7 key ones that would fall within sort of the San Juan Islands nexus. When I asked him, he said from north to south in the county, and he talked about Lummi, Samish, Swinomish, Sklallam, Stillaguamish, sorry.
Yeah, it's who has a UNA. I thought it was more than 7.
I thought it was Nooksack.
Well, okay, so the question
As
I
well.
asked him, hi Kyle, the specific question I asked him is what tribes would need to be a part of this discussion? And he gave me the names of the tribes, and I'm sorry, I was like writing down so quickly, I just couldn't catch them all. So I can certainly go back to him and ask, but it wasn't 13. It wasn't that many tribes. Hi Kyle, what we're talking about here is sort of some learning coming out of the conversation with Sam Barr that I had yesterday.
I just, and it wasn't about our work per se, but I had a meeting. I was at Lummi all morning, and meeting with a key individual there who's also an elder. And she brought up, and I just emailed to each of you, not in our context, but she said somebody else was reaching out, saying, hey, how do we do an acknowledgement? And she told him to look at Simon Fraser University because she felt like it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
She also said the acknowledgement needs to be very short So as people could actually read it at the beginning of a meeting or something. And it can have additional background, but she was saying, 2 sentences, don't do 4 paragraphs.
Mhm.
So there's a verbal, there's a written acknowledgement that I think the charter needs to begin with. And I'm hoping that that's part of the Bill of Rights stuff that's happening. And
Mhm.
maybe provide some language to them. But our charter should start with that, a land acknowledgement that we're on other people's land,
Mhm.
and honoring them and recognizing them.
Mhm.
And then specifically to our work, if we create a commission, yes, we say, I said before, I think it should be more than 1, but we can't have 7 even, we can't have 13. But we should, I mean, maybe it's a 14-member panel and 7 of them are Coast Salish representatives. That'd be awesome. I'm being serious. That would be awesome.
I'm sorry, come again. What did you just say? I was reading Sharon's text. What did you just say, Kevin?
I said, maybe it's this, 14 or 15 member commission and 7 of them are Coast Salish representatives. And then I was saying that would frankly be awesome. But I don't know if that's feasible. The other thing is we may not get participation. In the past, the way we have done this, for instance, with the Salmon Recovery Council or the many other government bodies where I've sat, where there has been significant tribal membership, is we have had numerous representatives from tribes. So the governor's task force on the Blue Ribbon Panel on orca recovery, I think we had 5 different tribal representatives. And so I think what would be great is if we set it up so that we could reach out to multiple tribes and say, can you please suggest members for the panel? But I do not believe that I just don't know if it's feasible to say that we're going to have every single tribe that has a UNA or a relationship with the San Juan Islands to have a seat. But maybe we should do that.
Okay, so I just thank you for reminding me of this part of our conversation yesterday, Kevin, of my conversation with Sam. He said that the recent work done by the national parks for a new visitor center on San Juan Island at American Camp, he said was an extremely good model to follow in terms of being inclusive of all the tribes that needed to be brought on board.
Okay, but you're speaking to one member of one tribe who's saying that's the example. So
will you let me finish, sir?
yeah.
Okay, thank you. He was simply saying that you may want to talk to Joe Dolan, the tribal liaison person, and or this woman by the name of Alexis, who headed up that initiative. And so, I mean, I don't know why his view of this wouldn't be a worthwhile view to listen to anyway, and then perhaps speak to this Joe Dolan fellow to find out the approach that they took. But apparently it was quite inclusive and it was quite successful. And it was recent. And so anyway, I don't have reason to dispute him. Perhaps you do. I don't know. Maybe you knew something about that process.
And I just, there is another tribe, a senior tribal member in another tribe who actually commented to me about maybe a month ago now, but sometime recently, that the national parks had blown it.
Okay.
So all I'm saying is, with all of I know you're Canadian, but I was going to say typical American point of view is, we speak to one person and think it represents a broad brushstroke. And I know you get this. I know all of you get this, frankly, but I don't want us to fall into a place where we think that because we spoke to the Samish, we're speaking for everybody, which is exactly your point. So my other thing, though, is in the next 7 days, this committee needs to at least have an outline of what we're doing, or it's not going to get done by June. And I know that we don't want our pace to cause us to not have a good product. But at the same time, at some point, you got to fish or cut bait. And if we wanted to do full consultation with the tribes, that's not even a year-long process.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's what I was saying to Sharon. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Sharon has her hand up. So or did you want to finish, Kevin?
no, I'm good.
Yeah, go ahead, finish.
I'm all good. I'm all good. I don't really have an answer. I just need,
Yeah.
Yeah,
We agree completely that this is not a short, that would not be a short process in any case. So, and that's why, Kevin, we were hoping we could come up with something that would at least put some markers down, right? So acknowledgement is one, and what might the other be? Sharon, did you want to speak to?
well, really, that's really all I wanted to say, is that we should put some language in the charter, whatever we can at this point, without having the time to do all the consultations that would be necessary, but to have something in there that says we are going to recognize the history and culture of the tribes in a way that we have not before as a county.
Mhm, mhm. Okay. Kyle, did you want to say something?
Conceptually, I like what Sharon just said. I'm just not sure. I don't feel comfortable that I'm offering that, or that I can offer that. I'd like to, but I don't. I don't think this county is in that. I think this county is in that position as a whole. There are a lot of there's a lot of work happening at a lot of levels in this arena, and I don't know. I'm frustrated, I think, because I'm frustrated with myself, I think, because I would like to be able to, and maybe this is guilt of a white male, but I'd like to be able to enable more things to move forward and for us to have more traction. But it's just another, some of that energy, and I think we've heard this in this committee before, is just more colonialism, really. So maybe moving forward, and I've mentioned this yesterday, maybe waiting until next year would give us more time, but I don't think it puts us any further ahead, frankly. And so I'm just an acknowledgement would be great, a verbal one, a written one, more language, and maybe with time being so short, we really do borrow. And I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with somebody from the Island Trust on the BC side, and a lot of that perspective was, well, come to our side and see what's happening with reparations and with the energy that's happened so far around, really just regrounding the provincial government and the federal government's approach. And I don't know where to go with that either, but the language becomes, what's the point, Kyle? The language becomes just as difficult to put into a charter, I think, as any other work to do, I'm afraid. So, and maybe this is not adequate or not the right way to think about it, but I was hopeful that creating space for the future of this conversation was one of the best things that we could do. And I don't think we can represent all tribes or all interests. I mean, there are multiple, there's at least one band, sub-tribe band. And, we talked about this yesterday or at least previously, there are people who, they're not all external. There are people who with native blood who, live among us. Some, at least one on the commission. So, I don't think everyone can be included, and I'm not sure who would come to the plate if the offer were there. I wanted to try and somehow be reassured that might happen, I guess. And I guess part of the angst is because of the looming deadline. So, so I don't know who you talk to so that you get enough content or enough permission or enough of a sense of the landscape to do something reasonable and smart and appropriate with the project that we're trying to do. So none of that is proactive or helpful, but that's where my head is right now.
Okay.
Maybe for now, we need to be okay with the language of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And just to put in the whatever structure we can to just really encourage more diversity and equity in the county, and not necessarily specifying the tribes, but they're certainly included in that. And again, it may be beyond the scope of the charter to get into more specifics, which we can still do. And I'm also, just one more thing, Kevin, and I'm done. I wonder if somewhere in the preamble we can include something, if it's not already being included.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, Kevin?
I am, sorry, we just got an email from King County from Mac. Not from Mac, actually. Mac just left on his paternity leave, but from the person who replaced him, who worked very closely with Mac, saying, hey, if you guys need anything, please let me know. Sorry, Mac didn't get back to you. He's on paternity leave. So I'm copying Jane on the email. I'm writing back saying, hey, talk to Jane. So there's that. I just had a thought, which is for the commission. I think the language we've got already works well. I do think that we should push for a part of the Bill of Rights and part of the preamble to the charter itself being an acknowledgement.
Mhm.
And I just glanced at the Simon Fraser ones. I actually think they're good. Typical, Canada's ahead of us.
Like light years, guys. Hate to say it, but it's light years ahead.
It goes ahead of Canada. So we're just a bunch of white, arrogant losers. So anyway, my point was going to be that for the commission language,
Mhm.
since the county council is going to appoint the commission, we could assign the duties, the oversight functions. I want to push that. And for membership, we could say that the membership shall and include, and then for tribal representation, we will say, and at least, at a minimum, 3 members of representing Coast Salish tribes or something.
Okay.
And then if they can do more, awesome.
Mhm.
And if they can't, at least 3. And then that's if you have a membership of say 13 or something. I have no idea. I don't think we've picked a number.
Mhm. Mhm.
And 3 are representing different tribes. I think that would be a big push in the right direction. My point is, I don't think we need to be as prescriptive as we're driving ourselves crazy with. I think if we say a minimum of, and put that in there, that's good. The
Okay.
county council, smart people, they're passionate, compassionate people and passionate people who care about these issues, and they will do the right thing.
Exactly. And if I can just follow on to that, Kevin, and say that I think just the creation of this commission, you guys, can be the forum in which this conversation can begin, right? And things can flow from it. So I think we are proposing the creation of a structure that can allow this conversation to start taking place. That's my view anyway. Okay. And by the way, Kyle and Kevin, I just want you to know, I mean, indeed, Sam is just one person, right? But he's grown up on this island. He knows his 7 generations back of his indigenous heritage, going back to the Barrack family that settled in Doe Bay on Orcas Island, and that's his family line. And he's deeply committed to to his nation and working collaboratively with other tribal nations, and cares passionately, as does his wife, about these issues. And he's he's younger, he's in his 30s, he's got a young child, and he's just so passionate about it. And he said at the beginning of our meeting he was so grateful to hear that the commission is doing this, and he said it's about time. And he said, and there are young indigenous people who are growing up into adulthood, and these are going to be people of change. These are going to be young people who want change, don't want the same old tribal politics. They want to change. And he and his wife work with this Indigenous Youth Conservation Corps, not the one for everybody else, but they created a Coast Salish People's Youth Conservation Corps. He and his wife did, and have partnered up with also the Saanich Nation, and are introducing. They've introduced the two conservation corps of, you know, the initial one, and then the Coast Salish one, and they're doing things together. Anyway, it was really cool. It was really cool. Okay, yeah. So anyway, you guys, we're at 2 minutes into public comments. So I need to allow our Linnea Anderson to speak with us, and she may want to have a couple comments, I hope. But yeah, Linnea, welcome, and please share with us your thoughts or anything you'd like to speak to.
Thank
You
you
can't
so
talk
much.
unless she's in the desert too.
I am not in the desert. I kind of am. I'm asking respectfully that you don't make me turn my camera on. I fell and I literally put a hole in my head. I've sustained quite a head injury. That's why Dave got rattled at his Wednesday meeting, because literally like 15 minutes before you guys met, I was trying to provide childcare, but I was doing it badly. So
Linnea, are you okay?
I am okay. I am here, but I'm operating from my new headquarters, which is AKA my bedroom. And I don't know that you want to come any closer. So
We don't need the
if I could
camera,
provide my
but-
comments this way, that would be great.
That's fine, Linnea, but you're okay?
Yeah, I'm my staples come out tomorrow, so it's
Oh.
good. It's all good.
So
I'm
sorry.
fine. I'm good. I'm fine. Dave told me that when I kind of came to, I started arguing with him that he had to serve the people and I was going to drive myself to the hospital, but no, he took me, thank God. So
If
So
you want to
Linnea,
see me
I had a-
professionally, just
Lin-
call.
Linnea, I had a stroke in that bedroom and tried to drive myself as well. So maybe it's the room.
it's something. Well, I fell outside. I hit my head on a rock. You know,
Oh.
that rocky, I was trying to get, anyway, I digress. Yes.
Oh,
So
Linnea, so sorry to
um,
hear about that.
I'm good. No, I just, please give me permission not to turn my camera.
Absolutely. We're delighted you're here. Totally impressed that you're here. If you have any few comments, but we don't want to burden you.
No, it's good. I'm working. It's all good. I feel okay. So thank you. Yes, there was a couple of questions that came up that I wanted to touch base on.
Sure.
One was on onboarding.
Yep.
This body had asked if I had any thought about it, and I appreciate you bringing it up again, because from this perspective, you know, equity extends to that concept of sharing knowledge and practices, not being paternalistic or, you know, having an in crowd or an exclusionary crowd. And so when we don't have established written practices and procedures, as at least a base framework for the onboarding process, it really kind of feels like the Hunger Games. And if there's any possibility that this body wants to join to have any persuasion on, I don't know, at least lending way for all the managers to get together to learn how we could perhaps level the playing field. Maybe it's not a big issue. Maybe I just missed out. But in talking with other folks around the county, just an idea of like knowing how to do a capital improvement plan. I can't go to a book or here's how you do it. Here's the timeline. You have to figure out who the right person is to ask and start from that process. And I don't know how efficient that is.
Okay.
And then let's see, I really appreciate this concept that you all are talking about and acknowledging the tribal sovereignty and that tribes are nations and do not speak for one another. And it made me think about when I worked for the state government, I was heavily involved and required to prepare 701 plans. Now that was an administrative policy by DSHS when I worked for them, but it was governed under an RCW, I think around chapter 43, delineating government to government relationship with tribes. I'm going from memory. It's coming from like the Centennial Court of 1989 and the presidential executive orders of 2000 under Bill Clinton. And I know that that was a big process for state governments, but in working for the county government for the last, since 2013, I don't know of any administrative policy or procedure or requirement. So I don't know if that extends to local governments or if that was only a requirement for state agencies. But I'm just curious if maybe that would be an avenue
Mhm,
for this conversation.
mhm. Okay, okay. Okay, that's really good.
And that's all I had. So thank you all
Okay.
so much for letting me share and stumble around.
Well,
You all
thank
keep up
you.
this amazing dedication to this important subject, and thank you for all your leadership.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it. And get better soon. Okay. Okay, so we're at 5:27 now. Kevin, yes, you had a comment.
Linnea just made me think of this. And Linnea, thank you for your continued everything. You've just, at every meeting, you contribute a great deal, and the presentations and conversations we've had with you and Judge Loring have been remarkable and positive and supportive and helpful. So thank you. And please take care of yourself. What you made me think of is the fact that there's also, and it's why earlier I was saying, we'll see what participation we get. Sovereign nations are far above us in authority and stature, and San Juan County is not a peer of any Indian nation, is what I'm trying to say, and neither is the state of Washington.
Mm.
They are like the Lummi Nation or the Puyallup tribes or the Tulalip tribes or the Puyallup tribe. They answer to the United States. They have a treaty with the United States. Their sovereignty and their government relations go that direction. They work directly with the state of Washington through accords, as Centennial Accord is one of them, that have recognized the co-management authority on natural resources and so on through federal court cases. We also have to recognize that just in our work. I think so every tribal member, even officials, tribal councils I've spoken to about our work, have been excited that this work is taking place. There has been, and I will tell you that, when I reached out to members of the Lummi and also the Tulalip about coming to one of our subcommittee meetings, they were kind of like, well, why don't you tell us, when you get further along and we'll review something. But there is a bit of a hesitancy for them to engage at this level because it's beneath them. And we need to recognize that. Yeah. And it's important that they are a sovereign nation. This would be like San Juan County reaching out to Justin Trudeau and saying, hey, we're working on something. We want you to have a conversation with us, and will you attend a meeting and give us your input?
Right. Yeah.
We wouldn't even get an assistant secretary to the deputy of a ministry in Canada.
Right.
And so why in the hell do we expect different from another sovereign nation? So all this just struck me. So sorry, I'm half venting, but I also think that's really important for us to keep in mind.
And Kevin, if I can just do a quick follow on to that, and that is, for me, that is why speaking with Sam Barr was an interesting perspective, because he's not an elder. He's not a tribal, council leader. He speaks from a really kind of being at the grassroots level, working on issues of cultural heritage. He works with the Swinomish tribe on those issues in a paid capacity. And so he's kind of down in the weeds, and it's easier for him to have conversation about this because he recognizes he's creating awareness for folks like us who don't necessarily know what's going on at that kind of grassroots level. Anyway, that's why I thought it would be interesting to reach out to him. And I did mention to Sharon that he was prepared to come and speak with us next Monday at 4 if we wanted him to. He's made a note of it in his calendar if we felt like we wanted to ask him to come talk. And really, it's more not peer to peer, but like he doesn't have that stature. He doesn't bring that with him, so it's not as well, you know what I'm talking about. Yep, Kevin.
I think it'd be great if he wanted to come speak to us. I just love to get to have a conversation with him. I've met him before. We've had wonderful conversations in the past, and I really appreciate his input. And we need to get to work, guys. Like, we need this whole conversation is beautiful, but we need to finalize whatever our recommendations are going to be.
So I have been working all day, Kevin, doing writing and sending you guys stuff. And I have been doing the follow-up that I promised you I would do, and I'm just not finished getting this findings table to not even anywhere close. And so, but I've been trying to prepare the material for you guys to help me feed into, you know, and
I actually thought that what you provided us already was a really, really solid, almost done.
And I've taken it to the next level already.
Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I think that we need to be at a place where we can say, okay, this is what we want to pass on. Because remember, we're going to give it to the commission, and they're going to have 100 ideas and feedback, I hope. And so whatever we do is going to get morphed a little bit more too. Which almost raises a counterpoint to myself, which is, yes, we want to get it really good and right and so on before we give it to the commission, so we're clear on it. But I think that what you provided us already was really, and like the work we did Sunday and going through it and some of those specific edits, I think we're in a place where we're darn close. And also, Jane, I think you're crushing it. Okay, that was not a jab at you. I'm saying for all of us,
No.
we need to just write a paragraph and say, okay, that's what we're doing with the commission. Write a paragraph and say, that's what we're doing with the intro, and so on.
Okay, so will you guys indulge me? Okay, would you indulge me just by sharing with you the two documents that one of which I sent to you already, the other one wasn't finalized enough before I could send it to you today. I'll just quickly show them to you. Is that okay?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Yep. There isn't anything you need to say about it that I don't. I like it as is.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Okay,
Like-
so just really quickly, so this is what I sent to you guys at noon today. Oh, please tell me, no, it's not no, that's not the one I sent you at noon today, darn it. Just one sec. Okay, well, never mind. This is the one I've created after I sent you the one at noon. The one
Well,
I
I
sent.
don't see anything, Jane.
Oh, you don't see anything?
It says you started to screen share. Are you guys seeing it? Am I the only one?
No,
I'm only
it's
seeing
not
it
there yet.
says San Juan County Charter Review Commission has started screen sharing. That's it.
Okay, I'll stop sharing. I'll try it again, okay? All right, so share a screen.
Did you select the document you want to share?
That's what yeah, and I could see it, but you guys could not for some reason, which is rather strange.
You have to click start share again one more time.
Gotcha. Okay, let me give it a shot again. And by the way, so this is the document. Okay, okay. So here's this guy.
No, I'm not seeing it.
Start share.
Yeah. Oh,
Bottom right.
okay. I'm
It
sorry.
says yeah, it says reviewing your screen, but we're not seeing the document.
Jeez, that's bizarre. Darn it. I'm sorry. Oh, this is so annoying.
While you're doing that, Jane, I think for the week pending, I would love to see your findings list sooner than later, because I just don't want to duplicate. There it is.
Can you see it?
Jane,
Okay.
I'm really sorry. My call is coming in.
Okay. Okay.
Here, I'll go on mute and try and listen to you guys and just try.
Okay. Okay, so what I did, Kyle, is I shared with you, all three of you, that shortened version of our proposed amendments in one document. So it's all there, okay? And I factored in what I could of our discussion yesterday. It's really important that you guys take a look at that and make sure, you know, if you have comments or edits, maybe use track changes or something, but that is where we landed at the end of yesterday in terms of our proposed amendments, okay?
That's great. That's great.
Now,
That's great.
So Kyle, there's something that's changed though, as of this afternoon, because I talked to Bob O'Connell and also Liz Lafferty, and I had thrown at you guys this proposed amendment. No, it's not even in here, darn it. The proposed amendment of a declaration on anti-racism and equal rights for all peoples. However, I feel we do not need such a declaration because there will be this either Bill of Rights or Declaration of Rights. And we will want to include in that justice and diversity and equity and inclusion language. And Kyle, are you simpatico with that? I talked to Sharon about it.
Yeah, I think there's time to, I wouldn't, you might strike it from this document and just save the language somewhere.
Yeah.
Mostly because I'm just, as I mentioned yesterday, I'm not sure what form or what life force the preamble / Bill of Rights is going to take. So
Fair enough. And so I've
Yeah,
still got the
keep it.
language. Excellent.
yeah, keep it.
Okay, so what I've done then is I have created this document, which has on our left the issues that our committee was tasked with addressing. And in the middle are proposed amendments. The findings are what would be articulated on the right-hand side to justify, how we came to these amendments, these proposed amendments. So on the left-hand side, you'll see that in some cases our issues overlapped, right? You'll recall that issue number 2, which is the charter and the current structure of the local government, blah, blah, blah. The 3 issues below that are issues that we felt aligned with issue number 2, and that's why they're all reflected there, okay? So the logic being that the proposed amendment here addresses those issues in some form, okay? So that's how this is structured. Now, I think it would be good to look at how the findings were structured by the governance team, the group that just sent their table around. And I could probably just share that with you in terms of seeing how their findings were articulated. I think it would also be useful to see what how the operations committee wrote their findings, because I don't recall, but I'm not at this moment, I'm not fully clear on how we want to write about the findings. So before we hang up in what'll be hopefully the next few minutes, it would just be good to agree on that. So I want to just scroll down so you can, by the way, Kyle, Sharon and I talked about changing the language so it says status as an unpaid family caregiver. Does that address what you had problems with in terms of family caregiver? It doesn't?
I don't think it's bad, but no, I don't need it to be more wordy. I think, well, what am I looking for? The distinction, I think, between, maybe the distinction isn't important, but because it's really, I mean, it's a microscope, really. All of this article is a microscope for county current, looking backward to some extent. So this will apply and have to be sort of looped over what exists already, but also for new hires, right? Or for any future operation. So will the fact that someone is taking care of a medically dependent parent, disqualify them or somehow move their order of hireability on in the county future. So I think that what I'm looking for there is whether it was, a single parent, just further articulating. I mean, we're all potentially, arguably, any parent is a family caregiver, right? That's not really what you're going after, I don't think. So I was just looking for more, and we're all unpaid. I mean, for the family part of it, we're all unpaid providers or caregivers.
Well, we're not all. I mean, if you're talking about an unmarried person who doesn't have children and doesn't have a spouse and parents are dead or something, they're not a family caregiver, but they may be.
Is that the only distinction, whether you have kids or not? I mean, we might have a parent that they're taking care of.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so the family caregiver means someone in the family who has to give care to another family member. It could be a parent, it could be a spouse, it could be a child, it could be any number of those. So I'll tell you what, just because I don't want to belabor this, I welcome you to modify the language if you feel it needs to be. So
that's fair.
I'll leave you at that. Okay. So that's the first one, the non-discrimination clause. Okay. And has those 2 elements, and it captures what we talked about yesterday. And by the way, this language here, the this language here is repeated. Much of these two clauses, parts of the clause are repeated. The council shall take whatever affirmative action necessary to accomplish this purpose as defined in the state and federal constitutions, laws, regulations, and applicable court interpretations. So Bob O'Connell actually thought it was important that we talk about, that we do include affirmative action in there, which we are allowed by law to do. So, okay. All right, so article, this is the creation of this, what we're calling Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Commission. And I think we may want, I think we're talking about probably still including the word oversight in there. If anybody has any recommendations in that regard, if you want to include oversight in the text of the section, please suggest so. And a question for you is whether we would want to include it in the name of the commission, but I don't know. Yeah, Kevin?
So I made a bunch of edits on the document yesterday. Didn't I send those to you?
Yeah, they're in here.
No, but this says the county council shall establish. We got rid of that yesterday. The charter is going to establish.
I literally did a copy and paste of the text that you sent me with your markups and edits. So,
Okay, so then I missed it. In the original version that I was sharing. So the point is, the charter establishes. We're not having the county council establish. The charter is establishing.
Gotcha. Okay, and should it say shall establish? No, the charter establishes. Gotcha. Okay, go ahead. All right.
The
Sorry.
charter. No, it should,
I know my computer is on.
yeah, I know. I'm thinking out loud now. I can't remember what I wrote originally. There's a way to word it.
Excellent. I tell you what, as well, in the interest of time, again, maybe you can.
That's it. Just say establishes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I will for now. Okay.
And that's the kind of thing that can get fixed by Randy too. We can send it to him like this and his team will know how it needs to be worded. We don't need to kill ourselves on that.
Okay, excellent. And do you guys want to include the word oversight in here to serve in an oversight and advisory capacity, or I don't know?
I would like it to be in there for now until we finish the ordinance that we're going to put forward for the council to adopt, or however we are going to do that. If the strength is elsewhere, then this can be advisory. If there's very clear laws in the county regarding JEDI issues. If not, then this commission needs to do it. Although, as I shared earlier, I am somewhat concerned that as with, and Kyle, this is before you were on, but we were talking about that Bill of Rights language is a little weaker than where it started, in my opinion, including in title now. But as with our National Bill of Rights, how that Bill of Rights gets implemented is through laws. And so, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, I mean, these are all different things that came out of our Bill of Rights, and judges refer back to the Bill of Rights, but it takes the law to implement it. And I'm worried that we are starting to go down that path of having high-level language without teeth. And so I just want to make sure that somewhere on justice and equity, we've got teeth. And if it's not with this commission, it's our duty to find it elsewhere or put it elsewhere.
Okay. Okay, so that's more food for thought for next Monday then. Kyle?
Since you have the stylus and everything going, how about, and I heard all that Kevin said, I'll keep that in mind this week. Instead of status as a family caregiver, how about something like status as a provider for dependents?
Sure. Excellent. Okay. Excellent.
I guess that's more of what I was after. I don't know if that works for everybody.
That works for me. Does it work for you other two?
Yes.
Okay.
I think yesterday was a giant leap for humankind. This is, and it was mostly your work, Jane. I mean, the time we spent was important, but I feel so much differently about this committee's work.
Oh, good.
after all my lack of grounding 20 minutes ago.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, so and I'm gonna get a
Will you send this to us in a, I think you said this, in an editable format or something that we can at least unlock? And do we have your blessing to add findings?
Absolutely. So
On the fly.
yeah, this is kind of, so we don't need to go through all of this now because you will see that what we talked about is just reflected here. Okay, so you'll see the personnel system suggested change on exemptions, and Kyle, I didn't write MSRC to find out about those exemptions and the requirement to have them, but
Okay.
I can put that, I will, I'll commit to putting that to this person I know, I don't know, I have a contact with MSRC and ask about exemptions, okay? So I'll do that. In the meantime, we've got this language, and then something that may not have landed with you guys yesterday, and Kevin, I want you to perk your ears up here, is this proposal that we have a personnel board. And this was in what we reviewed yesterday, but we didn't get to talk about it at all. But I think it's an innovation that is in another one of the county charters. And I think a personnel board is absolutely appropriate to ensure that justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion issues are upheld, or our principles are upheld in hiring practices and appointment practices of the county council, of the county. So I wanted to know what you thought of this. Kevin?
I like the idea. I'm wondering if those duties could be rolled into the commission. I'm worried that we're creating too many committees, commissions, panels, not just with our subcommittee, but just in general. And so I would say that this is a function maybe of the other commission we're talking about creating.
Okay, other views on that?
I have the same thought. I think viscerally, it's mostly because the county is so, there's so many boards and commissions already, of which something close to 50% of the positions are empty, just because there aren't enough people to fill them.
Okay.
You're not, half of the, I think the way you got it scripted here, half or so would already be employees.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I'd like to explore this. I don't want you to do anything with it for now.
Okay.
The classified merit employees, does that speak to, in your mind, does that speak to union representation and that piece?
I don't know. I can't comment.
Because I think I'm guessing the union, that even employees would want some means for union or shop stewards or somehow employees that are active in the employees union would be included. I'm not sure about that,
I
but
see what you're saying. Yeah.
when you're talking,
Yeah. So you guys, I'm prepared to strike this. I'm also concerned it might take us down a rabbit hole that the operations committee's already gone down with Mike Thomas and James Wolf. So I'm prepared to strike this if you guys are okay. Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
On the personnel,
Yeah, the personnel board.
I think if we're going to strike it, I think we need to add something from it to the other commission's duties.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
I would agree for
So
sure.
I'm not saying we get rid of it. I think it's a great idea. I just think we include it in the other commission. We say, dude, and I think for that commission, we will have to say duties of this commission shall include, or responsibilities shall include, and then one of them could be this.
Okay, a quick question on the articulation of the makeup of that commission, which I did a lot of text on already. Where does that go? If the charter establishes the commission, where does the description of the composition or the membership of the body, its tasks and functions, et cetera, where does that sit? In the charter?
Say that again, sorry.
I've already done some work, as you know, on the tasks and the compositions and duties, et cetera, functions of that commission in that draft paper I shared with you guys.
Yeah.
Now, where does that sit? If it,
Yeah, so it will be in the charter, but that's a question we need to get to Randy. So please log that. And that'll be a question that if you want to pose that question and send it to me, I can send it on to Randy, or you can send it to Randy and just copy me on it. And myself and Olivia, actually. But that's the sort of question that is that we need to just start sending over to Randy so that he can have the time to get back. That's probably an easy one for him. But
okay, so, so should I write to him directly about that then?
yeah, you can just copy Olivia and I, or you can send it to me. I'm going to send him some other questions too. If you want to send it to me, I can forward it on to him and I would copy you on that, whatever.
Yeah,
It
that
doesn't
might be,
matter.
that might be.
I don't need to be in the middle. I just need to be copied on it.
Yeah, okay, okay, all right, I'll put that question to him. Okay,
If you, for my benefit, Jane, not right now, but for the findings part of the personnel system, I know you had some thoughts on how this was distinctly separate from the commission. And the findings, you know, the issues part, it's a mirror essentially of some of the same issues, but I am interested in, you know, what motivated us, and some of this you've talked about already, but that would be helpful. And that might answer your question about how the roles get added if you were just going to sort of morph personnel system into the personnel board into the commission. That might help
okay, okay,
if you follow what I mean.
I think so.
So, you know, what are the motivations for this as a standalone section and as a standalone body? And then how do those findings help expand the commission so that these functions that you've thought of here get covered by a
Okay,
bigger group?
I'm following you, okay, and so that's what I would want to be reflecting in the findings then, okay.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm following you, okay.
And that might help Randy. I don't know. That
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. All right. So then the last one was this added wording to section 10.2 on purchasing contracts, et cetera. And I need to, okay, you guys, we don't know if we're going to have a county declaration on anti-racism and the equal rights of all peoples, because we may not need to, depending on what comes out of that Bill of Rights, but I'll leave it in there for now. Okay, so that's in there. And then there's this recommendation that we have for the county council to revise the membership of the Law and Justice Council to include more community representation, a representative of minority population in the county, to Kyle's rewording suggestion yesterday, and an invitation to the Coast Salish tribes to sit on the council.
would it be enough to have a member of the newly created council or the newly created commission, whether it's oversight or advisory, is it enough to have one person from that board co-represent on this body?
I would say not necessarily, because
Okay.
that is not going to ensure representation for all 3 districts of our county.
Gotcha. Would
So
it be enough if the council, I'm sorry, if the other law, if the commission, the formed commission, the newly formed commission did represent that and then one person moved over, would that be?
I'm actually, so thinking of what you're just saying, I'm wondering if we should remove the bottom 2, the one representative minority population, and the one below that, invitation to Coast Salish tribes, and instead just have 1 or 2 representatives from that commission. Does that make sense?
That I think that's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, there's a multiple amendments piece. There's a big government. I know there's a, you know, the question about how big should government be. I think that, I guess that kind of depends on who those people might end up being. But without some kind of pathway, the work of both isn't necessarily directly informed or directly informing the other.
That's right. And that's really cool.
Which is pretty important.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And Kevin, I'm conscious of time because I know Sharon has to go.
Yeah, I'm out too. So just the language on invitation to the Coast Salish tribes to sit on the council, I would say just have it form with the others, but also just to have it appropriate for the tribes. We're not going to ask every tribe to sit on the council. So I would say at least, at a minimum, or at least one member of Coast Salish, of a Coast Salish tribe. And let the council further define it, but at a minimum, one member of a Coast Salish tribe.
Okay, and then,
That might be moot if there is a bridge, if there are bridge personnel folks, jointly operating.
well, that's what so if we had, yeah, we just have to be conscious how big this body might be getting too, right? Because it's not a small body in our county already. So if we're inviting 3 additional community reps from each district, and then like, what, 2 representatives from the commission, that's 5 more people.
And 1 831 is on the air for drill.
On this body. So I
One
don't
on
know,
the air for drill,
what do
17.
you guys think? I mean, isn't that getting a bit large? I think so. I like the idea of each district having representation. It could be that the commission members who sit on it could fulfill both roles, right? So, do you want me just to play with the wording on that?
Yeah, just mess with it.
Okay, I'll mess with it. All right. So you guys, next steps, I'll do a little bit more tinkering based on the feedback you've just given me, and then I'll send this around to all of you. And you have in your inbox already the version of the proposed amendments that's only that, and that's in one document for you. It's less than 3 pages long now. What, in terms of next steps and how we're divvying things up, I can populate some findings, but I think some of you are going to want to put some findings in here, but I'm not sure how you want to do that without duplicating effort, for one. Number 2, we've got some this tribal acknowledgement language that, or this acknowledging tribal sovereignty language that we need to incorporate. And I've got some other homework I need for you guys, including speaking with Mac's colleague. So yeah, in terms of, it's Monday today, and I'm just wondering where we're headed now between now and
So-
next Monday.
I think what we have here is good with a little refining. I trust you to do that refining. And unfortunately, I mean, I have another now brand new standing 2-hour every single week meeting just scheduled for the CRC. I'm swamped. I'm not going to have the time to add a great deal to this other than our meetings. And I apologize for that to all 3 of you. And this is one of the most important things we're doing in my mind. But I'm just getting overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I mean, unbelievably.
Yeah, I hear you. Kyle, go ahead.
I was unmuted. I am happy to help you, Jane. I'm not coming to the desert, but as soon as you're back, or in the meantime, I think language. I think a lot of the sovereignty and the acknowledgement messaging can be borrowed. I'm not sure there's a giant amount of work there, but let's work on this together, and I'm happy to help.
Okay, that's great, Kyle. I don't mind, because I'm quite conversant with, not conversant, I've seen and heard and actually spoken some of this acknowledgement language. So I'm happy to go to that SFU site that was recommended to Kevin and see what we can capture from that kind of language and propose something. Kyle, what would be super helpful is for you to, and then I can run that past you guys. And Kyle, you may have some, thoughts on that as well, unless you want to take that one on. If you want to take that one on, I'm happy for you to take that on.
Does that help you?
Yeah, it would. It would.
Why don't I do that?
Okay, I'll let you take that one on. And then if you can help me with some findings too, and maybe you could just let me know, Jane, these are the amendments I'm most comfortable sharing findings on, or working on the findings on, and let me know which amendments you prefer to work on the findings for, and then I would avoid those ones.
Okay.
And Sharon, did you have anything you want? I mean, I know you're loaded down as well, particularly because of your other committee work. So, But did you have anything you want to feed in on at this point, or do you want to wait to see what we generate in the next few days?
I don't have anything right now, but I'm here to support both of you. Anything you want me to research, just let me know and I'll take it on.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Keep knocking the park out of the notes part.
Mhm.
That's great by itself.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And do I have agreement? Looks like Kevin had to go, but I understand we should invite Sam to just meet us on Monday at 4 if you're in agreement with that.
You know, I'd like to hear from Sharon and Kevin too, but I like the idea a lot. And if it means that we needed an extra, Sunday was a beautiful day and it was 2 hours. Assuming that somebody had maybe had a little bit of adult beverage during the meeting, that was entertaining. Could have been entertaining if that happened. That was worth it for time, but we could always add another little,
Working
work session, I
session?
think. Yeah.
Yeah, if we need it, let's just do it.
Yeah,
I'm not
let's,
advocating right now for that, but
What I would ask though is, can we start when we say we're going to start and end when we say we're going to end? That would be really super helpful to me if we can. I understand it's
Yes.
not always
absolutely. And
possible to do
I'm
that.
sorry about this. This meeting just bled on again today, and it did yesterday too. But yes, your point is well taken, Sharon. So with that, shall I ask for someone to put
so
forward a
moved.
motion to adjourn? So moved. Okay, seconded.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Thanks, bye.
Meeting is adjourned. Bye, guys. Thank
That
you.
was
so much.
awesome. Thank
Night,
you.
everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
Linnea.
you.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye
guys.
now.
Ice.
See ya.
Use the ice.
Okay.